It's the Exit 52 podcast on a Sunday night, October 15th. My name is Jake Louque. I'm joined by Brian Black, aka Barstool Banks. How's it going, sir?
It's good. It's one of those unique Sundays. We've had all day to kind of digest the win here for the Ravens and watch some football without the burden or whatever you want to call it of I don't know, all the stress that comes with this football team. So it's kind of been nice to get it out of the way, and let's talk a little Birds football.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly down. It has been certainly one of those days. It's one of those ones where and listen, we can just get right into it. I got into one last night. I had a wedding and everything, and you wake up and the first thing in the morning you're just taking Ravens football in after a little McDonald's breakfast. Shout out to my guy Mike Looque, who hooked me up with some hash browns, and we got into it. And listen, what a win, 24-16. What else can you say? I mean, just tremendous to go over there. It looked like the boys were buzzing. They were having a good time. I watched Marlon Humphrey's Instagram live coming back on the plane. It seemed like they got there early. They were ready to take care of business, and they just kind of went out and did it. There wasn't anything it looked like maybe some of the demons have been expelled a little bit. There were some issues. You had Lamar Jackson throwing an interception that was pretty ill-advised, but other than that, and a couple penalties here and there that we can get into, obviously, but other than that, a pretty comprehensive win over a Titans team that you should beat, cover the spread, took care of business. Let's get back home. We got a homestand now, and they're in a good spot at 4-2. They should probably have a better record than that, but 4-2, you're leading the division. Bengals had a W today. Browns get a W over the 49ers, which is pretty significant. And this is going to be a dogfight of division, but the Ravens leading it as of right now, and that's a good place to be.
Yeah, I think, man, there are a lot of good things, like a lot of the wins that we've had so far this year. There are a lot of good things in this win. A lot of indicators that say, hey, this is a contending football team that could do really great things. And then there were some, I don't know what to call them, some hiccups, if you will. There were some concerns. There was the sky is falling period of the game that occurred there in the third quarter as the momentum was shifting, and it felt like the referees were against us it felt like they were against us most of the game, but I'm sure we'll get into that. As well as, the ill-advised pick by Lamar. Not sure how much that's his fault versus Bateman's, and it was a very weird interception, which admittedly is kind of Lamar's MO. It seemed like a very 2023 Ravens win. It felt like a win they should have won by more, and leaves you a little dissatisfied. But at the end of the day, they get a W at a place where there was already a bad taste in our mouths from 2017. So how much can you really complain? So I guess from the first thing maybe we should dive into is and maybe the first thing I want to talk about is a deviation. All right, let me just start this over.
I like this. I like the direction you're going here. Seems like you really prepped this.
I didn't. This is me going on the fly, but this is something I obviously thought about all football game because I tweeted about it multiple times. Daniel Stern appears to be imprisoned. I don't know what's going on there. 4th and 1, first drive of the game. In their territory, Tucker's automatic, but come on, man. Like, every model that is in the existence of the world is saying go for that by a good margin. Our culture says go for it. I know we've been burned numerous times here, and the fan base is there were too many people who were content taking the points there. And it worked out today. And I feel like those people feel like it was validated. I've got some mentions post-game here that were like, glad we took the points. And in hindsight, I guess, glad you take the points because the end result was a win. But if that's who we're going to start to be, it's going to come back to burn us at some point. If we start taking field goals and 4th and 1s at the 20, at the 25 of the opponents, that's going to come. It's just a negative outcome overall. Doesn't validate the decision.
I'm with you when it's the Kansas City Chiefs and you're at home and you've thrown 2 interceptions and it's close, crazy game. And, that type of environment where they go for the 4th and 1 and they get it, 2 years ago, whatever that was. Totally with you on that. But where I deviate from you is that they've played with their food, right, in the 2 losses that they've had this season thus far. They played with their food against the Colts. They played with their food against the Steelers. He had the Mike Tomlin quote about burning the house down. Like, it's just, I feel like when you do that and you don't get it, the momentum really swings against you, and it can allow teams that are lesser than you, like the Steelers, like the Colts, like the Titans, to get back into the game. And so, like, the fact that they kind of just like I said in the preview, like, don't overcomplicate this. Just complete your passes, catch your pat, like, do whatever you got to do, and don't overcomplicate this. Don't go for it when you don't need to. So I was glad to see them do that. I could have maybe gone for them going for it maybe one more time than they did, two more times than they did, but like realistically, like, I was personally okay with it.
I just disagree. I feel like taking the 3 points is the way that you play with your food. We kicked 6 field goals today. We probably should have kicked 4, and then, you know, maybe we punch one in, maybe we punch in 2, maybe we don't. I don't know, but that game was yet again, second week in a row, a game that should have been over by halftime, if not sooner. So it fed into the food playing with more than anything, in my opinion. I guess this is another breaking off point here for a discussion point. The red zone the last 2 weeks has been obviously a big issue. We were cash the first 4 weeks of the season, and that's gone decidedly south. And that you just call it regression to the mean, sure, I suppose. But the play calling inside the red zone was pretty questionable, I think. It was good situational football to run the ball as much as we did, but there was a clear lack of success for most of the game. And that's where I'm a little in between on the play calling, because the pick was a product of us going to the air, but we had so much success in the air for most of the first half that I kind of thought, that's just the way it goes. So I'm curious your thoughts on that. You know, a run pass, especially in the red zone, it seemed like we went especially run heavy, and didn't get Mark Andrews involved until, far too long in the game.
I mean, listen, this was very clearly a reaction to what happened last week. I mean, watching that game, and that's not to say that, and I know you're kind of hinting a little bit that they were kind of playing scared, and maybe you're right to an extent, but like last week, we cannot stress enough how fucking bad of a loss that was. That was so bad. And like realistically, like they could have won that thing going away 5 times, and they should have. And it's really disappointing that they didn't. And, you step on your feet that many times, like, it's just tough. You've got to it goes back to what I was talking about a couple weeks ago. Like, you've got to just you got to tie your shoes sometimes. You got to make your bed. You got to brush your teeth. Like, it's not like that, they've overcomplicated things a lot thus far this season. And the play calling is an extension maybe of the 4th down discussion that we kind of just had, where Odell Beckham, that back shoulder fade against Joey Porter, that's really what killed that game, in my opinion. I mean, the fact that they didn't at least come away with 3 points there was terrible. And I don't necessarily want that to become their DNA, where they get away from being swashbuckling and going for it and kind of being, daring do and all that kind of stuff. But this was very clearly a reaction to last week. And I think the fact that you're on the road in a strange environment, you've been in London all week. It's very, it's kind of one of those weird games where you got to just kind of get out of there with a W and let the rest take care of itself. And the fact that they're 4-2, I mean, it's very much an ends justify the means thing, which I'm not usually that type of person, but I think you just got to count your lucky stars that you're 4-2, because last week was so bad. And this was a nice salve, I think.
Isn't there a part of you that now that you look at the Eagles and the 49ers losing today, and you kind of look at the standings and you're like, okay, we're actually we're only 1 game out of the best record in the entire league. And you start to feel pretty good about where the Ravens are situated. And then you just get infuriated about why they're not 5-1, why they're not even 6-0. Like, there's really not much of a reason other than what we've talked about, just total lack of execution, lack of ability to tie your own shoes. So I guess I'm with you on that. And, within the construct of a football game, the right decision is the right decision. And that I guess is my concern. If the end result ends the way that it did with the win, it almost cements or it reinforces your decision making. And so I don't want that to be an excuse for us to just be the sheep of the NFL like most teams are, or at least they were 5-10 years ago, where taking the field goal all the time in opponent's territory is just something you're just feel lucky and happy to do. You're just like, all right, we just went 70 yards and chewed up 6.5 minutes, and we're happy to kick it on 4th and 1.5, you know? That's just it. It kind of disgusts me.
It
and
helps.
I shouldn't feel this way, but I don't know.
I get it. Yeah, that's been the identity. I mean, like that's really like it's the Seattle game, right? In 2019, we always go back to that with the hell yeah, let's go for it. Like that was the identity of this pairing with this coach and quarterback, right? And like that's beautiful, man. I absolutely love that. I totally like. I don't want them to get away from that, like in its entirety, but it's sometimes you have to get back to basics, and I think that's kind of what we saw a little bit today. I mean, the run game, they didn't get away from it. Gus Edwards was kind of running into the jaws a lot of the time with Harold Landry and those guys, or Jeffrey Simmons and those guys. Like, you know, they got a solid run defense, I guess. The numbers aren't great for them, but they certainly showed up today. So they got him involved. They got Hill involved a little bit. Keaton Mitchell didn't get any run, who was activated today. But yeah, I mean, they kind of just took care of the business, man. Zay Flowers looked very good. He scored a touchdown, his first ever touchdown, which was very nice to see. Bateman sprinkle in a couple catches. Odell Beckham, nice catch and run. Mark Andrews, a couple nice catches. He had a nice clutch one there late. So to me, it really is just that type of hygiene type of win. It's just taking care of business. TCB, and it's nice. But yeah, to your overall kind of point that you're making about the identity of the team, ultimately I'm with you, but it was just nice that they didn't step on their own feet this week, and that was all we needed to see happen. You get home. So I feel like we're reiterating or repeating a lot of our own points here, but it just cannot be stressed enough that it's a nice bounce back from what was one of the worst losses I've ever seen last week.
Yeah, and that is kind of the bottom line here is like, how can you not at least have some sort of reaction or at least a change in course after that is the end result twice in 3 weeks, really. So I get that piece of it. Let's go back to Ravens football, right? But anyways, I thought the defense stood up really well. Obviously, besides 2 huge plays, and listen, everybody would love to do this all the time, and the statistics of everything would be thrown out the way if you were to calculate things this way. But what the Titans had 230 yards, 233. You take out 2 gigantic chunk plays, and the Ravens really just stuffed the Titans all day, every day. And I know that their offense is lacking some serious firepower, but I think it was a really comprehensive effort by them today. The Wildcat run by Henry is really frustrating because you so clearly know exactly what's going on there. And there was a little misdirection that was involved, but that was kind of the jolt back into the life for the Titans in this game, which was frustrating. But besides
that was tough too. That was Roquan and Queen getting kind of fooled on the misdirection there. It's like, oh God, yeah. That's the moment. This is the moment. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then the other one was a big chunk play. What was that? A dump down, or I'm my brain is scrambled at this point.
It was too. It was so long ago. It feels like it was a year ago.
I know. But yeah, third down, 1 for 9 for the Titans. We stood up great there. Geno Stone. I mean,
ball hawk.
Yeah, NFL interception leader, like we all thought. Man, in limited time too. A little banged up coming out of this game. That's a concern. I'm not sure if there are updates on that. But Marcus Williams came out.
The one-arm man. He's truly is the one-arm man. Shout out to
that was an interesting play there where he came across and made that tip. And you're curious if he has both of his arms, what the result of that play is.
I'm just thinking of the Curb episode where they're they're referencing the fugitive. He's like, the one-arm man was playing Scrabble with your dad. Like, I just couldn't stop thinking the one-arm man.
It was really interesting to see the way he pursued Derrick Henry on that play too, because he clearly didn't want to stretch out with both arms and wrap him. He just kind of threw his body at him. He took on a little bit of a different angle so that he could go about that, which tells you that he still is not 100% whatsoever with that one arm.
Henry had the touchdown run too, and somebody was like, "Oh, he's making a business decision here." It's like, well, he's the one arm man, so that's what you get right now. Hopefully, get well soon, Marcus. But
yeah. But yeah, other than that, I feel like it was a less than noteworthy football game. Which
is good.
You kick six field goals. You're putting yourself in position 6 times, and one of them was off a muff. But
off of what?
Off a muff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. Sometimes there's a muff, and you just score real easy.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that was another key decision-making point there for Harbaugh, and one that I actually was pretty content with, because situationally, what were they up 15-3 at the Titans, 46 or 47 or so with 12 seconds left, and he chooses to punt there. And I think, given the way that we have played defensively and the fact that really the Titans' 3 points were fraudulent to that point, you kind of just punt there and you say, hey, I dare you to try to score that 12 points to make that up in the second half.
Same scenario as the Steelers. You had another muff in that game, and then that's where you get the back shoulder interception of Joey Porter Jr. So,
yeah, it's been a mixed muff situation.
A lot of mixed muff going on for sure. You're absolutely right about that. Anything more on the muff that you want to talk about?
That was a Ravens Week 5 type of botch job.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There. So that's
just guy.
If you want a more muff analysis, then that's what I got on that. That's just a really awful decision.
It's just guys talking muff. I think the B man is pretty fired up about it too back there. But
he is fired up.
Thoughts on Bill Vinovich? I feel like you've probably got some thoughts on him.
Man, consistently bad. It's just one of those guys where you go into a game and you might get off to a nice start and you're driving down the field, and then just some innocuous false start penalty comes up, and then you see who's kind of getting on the PA, and he gets on camera, and you're like, oh shit, we're dealing with Bill Vinovich today, man. DeAndre Hopkins, for one, is so disinterested in the football on so many of these admittedly bad throws by Are you done back here, bud? My goodness.
You had a little Canadian twang to you there. You done back there, bud?
Yeah. Yeah, he just that first pass interference. Yeah, this is such a ragtag operation right now. This is like an old school one.
Oh yeah.
You done?
Come say hi.
He's looking at me like I'm stupid.
Come see Uncle Jakey. Come
on. He's coming. All right, let's go. Come on. This is good radio. Yeah. Just the pass interference kickoff the game is like, what are we even talking about here?
Dude, he was crying on literally every, like, DeAndre Hopkins. You can, like, yeah, I'm not going to say what I was thinking there, but like, this guy, like, you signed with the Titans. What do you expect, man? Like,
it's also like, come on, you're a veteran. You've been around the game long enough. You're better than this is kind of my thought on that. It's like, I never had a negative connotation with him really at all for his
not at all
10, 12 years so far in his career. I left this game with a real hatred for DeAndre Hopkins just for being a baby. That's the extent of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I am 100% with you. I had nothing against the guy, but and it's still, I really don't. But like, that's just that's tough, man. You're looking for a flag on every single one, and thankfully, like, Bill eventually realized that he doesn't have to throw the flag every single time that he calls for one. So we got to that point, which is good. But yeah, no, he was very involved, Bill. I think he likes to get his airtime. I think he was the ref at the Mile High Miracle, so I always like remember him for that for some reason. But yeah, I don't know. Bill Vinovich loves the camera. He's kind of like the new, I wouldn't say the new Boger, because I think Boger is still in circulation, but they kind of remind me of one another a little bit.
I think he also.
Oh wow! Look at this. Look who has graced us with his presence. Now it's a brick wall. Yeah. All in all, you're just another brick in the wall.
Nice. It got so bad to the point where, you remember the goal line situation for the Titans late in the game. They're close to punching one in, and they throw that flag for the block in the back, which was a blatant one and a right call. But they throw it, and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ! Like, what now? Like, what could you possibly be throwing a flag on us for? When you start having those reactions every time you see a hanky on the field, I think it says a lot about the performance to point.
I think speaking of that too, we got to get into this. Like, thoughts on our guy, the Irish Catholic, Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, I know that Spencer has some spicy takes on this one, and I do as well. The three of us are on the same page, I feel.
It's too bad we couldn't get Taylor in, because I know
Taylor had a differing opinion.
Respect for the game. I mean, Taylor was just like taking up for the Zebras and the Titans. I mean, he was just like, what a performance.
He's a corporate pawn. We all know it.
Yeah, we know he's a shill for sure.
He's a shill. It's a flag. It's targeting. It's whatever you want to call it. To call that ejection worthy is just insane. For what we see on a weekly basis in the NFL, rarely are there ejections. And I feel like many people came at me on Twitter with responses that watch far too much college football relative to NFL football, and their brains aren't able to differentiate and flip the switch as to how the rule is different and how it's reviewed is different. And that ejections are really, really rare on that particular rule. And the conversation as to whether or not it should be an ejection is probably one for another day. But as far as how it's called typically in the NFL, it's just insane to make an ejection there. We had the Logan Thomas play like 3 weeks ago. Remember that in the end zone? Yeah. I mean, that's like a suspension worthy hit. And ejection,
literally.
Honestly,
and then who put the helmet to helmet to Lamar too? I mean, like, there was literally one that was arguably just as bad later in the game. Not even a flag.
But then that gets into the whole conversation of like, okay, Lamar kind of let his head there, and that's a different situation with the receiver. But at the same time, so clearly, this linebacker or defensive back was so clearly just lowering like almost the back end of his head, like the very top of his head into Lamar.
As somebody who has sustained an injury to the head, like up here, you're qualified to speak on this too. So.
Yes, correct. So him leading his head in that way is such an example of poor form and intent. Like, I'm using my head to try to do this, whereas you see Kyle Hamilton come in with his arms and also the head, because what's the next thing for him to make contact with is just, I'm trying to make contact with this person and be physical in a manner that will cause the ball to be dislodged, as opposed to, I'm going to use my head and just ram it into this guy recklessly.
Yeah. And for me personally, like, I just hate the term defenseless. Like, it's football, dog. Like, we're on a football field. Like, nobody's defenseless. Like, let's get that language out of here for one thing. And like, that's just sort of, enables them to call it more. And then obviously at least the ejection today, which was very college football-esque, I'm just not into it. Obviously a penalty, tough look, bad form by Kyle, but I don't think it was dirty, but I don't think it was intentional. And that's a really bad ejection there. What is going on with Spencer?
I don't know. Did he just eject himself from the room?
He ejected himself. He's still in the green room.
So he just went to backstage. I didn't even think you could do that as a participant.
He's all over it. He knows. I'm bringing him up. I don't care.
Well, there he is.
The wonton Spen. You are muted.
He's got no mic. We can't hear him. Hot start.
Spenny has no mic. This is amazing radio. And now he's backstage again. But yeah, no, it was, I don't know. It was just, that was brutal. And like, we had the Smythe man, caping for the shield and everything. And I saw a couple other people like, I don't know. Like, just that rubs me the wrong way. Like, let's get behind our guy here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not even about that. It's about common sense. How's a guy going to stop himself? And also, here's another thing.
Shout out to Thomas Payne.
If he was truly being reckless and trying to torpedo himself into the receiver, he wouldn't have landed on his feet. It's a lean over, and like, I'm up here, the ball's up here. This guy his arms are up here. I am going to lean the next thing other than my arms into him to try to create contact to dislodge the ball. It's football. That is like as football as it gets to instinctually do that. And he kept his eyes mostly up. This is where
eyes were up. Yeah,
hopefully with a microphone, because
I would hope that he's got
eyes open.
Bad. With eyes wide open.
It's a dramatic song for us right now, but
yeah, no, it's not good. I shouldn't have done that. Gentle Spen.
In no sense. Exactly the point. The teaching point is that when you drop your eyes and put your head not to the side, that is what a visual cue is for a referee. It made absolutely zero sense. Not even, I mean, sure. And hey, I like the Baltimore Ravens. I prefer for them to win. So if you want to say, hey, that's a penalty still because there's helmet to helmet contact, I'm fine with that. Ultimately, I'm fine. That's okay. The helmet's touched. But the visual cue for a referee is if your eyes stay up, you're in luck. That is a phrase that they put on pamphlets and packets and things of that nature. It was incidental contact. Again, CTE, concussions, brain damage, all of those things. Absolutely fine. But
well, they're not fine.
All of those
ideally we don't want those
as to why you will throw the flag. But it was not intentional. Kyle Hamilton did not try to hurt someone. I mean, who knows better than Kyle Hamilton, probably, who's a blue chip, 5-star pedigree Notre Dame boy, safety, who consistently strikes. For him to be that upset, of course, there's personal bias, all those things, but it's the intent at the end of the day, and targeting is different. Like Brian, you just said a minute ago, targeting is different. There's an entirely different operative behind that, and there has to be in the National Football League the intent that I want to disrupt using my head, and I will lead with my head. So for his eyes to be up, I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was sure, throw the flag. I thought it was a preposterous ejection. I don't understand it all. He's going to get fined too, clearly, because of that. I mean, TJ Watt got fined last week for punching at Zay Flowers. Like, he's going to get fined. I just thought it was the most egregious ejection that I can really recall in Baltimore Ravens history. And I'm failing to even really remember one. And Ravens are hitters. The last one I can remember is James Trapp and Plaxico Burress getting like dual tossed out of a game.
Not necessarily apropos of like a hit itself, but T-Sizzle against the Lions when he like threw the flag in the stands like that. Or was that Bart Scott? Who was it?
Yeah, it was. I feel like it was definitely Suggs.
Yeah, it was. I think it was both those guys were kind of in rare form in 2007 against the Lions. That was one of the more horrific games I've ever seen.
Derek Mason might have gotten thrown out of that game too.
Yeah, that was one of the more awful games of all time.
Yeah, no, that 2007 season is a house of horrors.
Listen,
2007, 2015. Like, if we want to like really try to walk back last week in disaster and watch some truly bad losses, different kind of bad loss, but
it's against expectations, really. Like with 07, it's like, okay, it's like, Steve's gone. Steve's, hurt. It's a bowler. And then 15, you get a couple weeks in and it's like, this is not good. Like, so expectations wise, they should have beaten that Steelers team. That was one of the worst losses of all time against expectations. And against skill, and against roster and against coaching. It was just
against everything.
It was a debacle. Listen, it was a full-scale debacle. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman who lived an amazing life. But, Spenny, we gotta get you involved here. Let's
get your
we're
take
absolutely just muffing this.
Let's get your take.
I had no idea when I came in here. I had no idea you guys were live, to be honest, to pull back the curtain. I thought you guys were just bantering back and forth. I was like, I'm gonna turn my laptop on. You guys have been going for
it's so bad.
The link had been going for like 14 minutes or something. I don't know what the hell was going
on. We're backtracking to the first 15 minutes or so here, but what's your take on the kicking out 4th and 1 on the opening drive and taking just a very overall conservative approach?
Why don't you talk to us about your thoughts on the game? What are your thoughts? Talk to us about them.
Conservatively, I mean, we loved it, right? That's what Jake and I, that's what we talked about in the
Yeah,
preview
well,
episode.
we loved it. I think our guy here maybe didn't love it as much. So I think I need you to talk him off a ledge.
I loved it because of exactly what happened last week. I thought it was the same game. It was the same game he played against the Colts. It's the same game he played against the Titans before. And it was the comments of Mike Tomlin and needing to change something. Something had to give. And to me, it was kicking field goals, punting the football at this juncture of the season. I don't love it as a process, but I don't like what the results have been. And at the end of the day, if the process has continuously led to a negative result so many times, so quickly in 2 years, I like changing the process because of that. And I was happy to see John Harbaugh put the onus on his defense a little bit. That clearly was a better unit. Do they end up, having a Michael Pierce roughing the passer that was questionable? 37 DPI holding illegal contacts. Could have gone either way on probably 3 of them. Sure. Does Tajay Spears rumble down at the end of this game and make it look closer than it was? Sure. But you're the better team in terms of talent. I think you're the more well-prepared team to start the game. And yeah, they kick field goals. They do go for it. What did they do? They run Mark Andrews up under center. That was a going for it thing. That was a short yardage, we're going to go for it situation. And they didn't get it. So was that a 4th down? No, but it was indicative of let's not do the definition of insanity Albert Einstein thing to me. And I think that when you have Lamar Jackson against someone that's not Josh Allen, someone that's not Patrick Mahomes, someone that's not, I'll throw Tua Tagovailoa in there right now, you don't have to beat them. Like you don't have to go aggro to beat them when you have Lamar Jackson. So I liked all of those things. And I think that's a reason why they won. They go 1 for 6 in the red zone, which was insane, terrible, bad, as bad as you can get, basically, and still end up walking out of there with a kind of comfortable win, like kind of a little.
It was pretty comfortable.
I didn't hate it at all.
Yeah.
Pretty comfortable. Yeah, I mean, those are kind of all the points I made, Brian. I don't know if you want to rebut him too, but
No, I mean, I would just be regurgitating myself. So it's just a difference in philosophy, I think, between you two and myself is.
Yeah, no, you're the swashbuckling kind of riverboat.
I'm a blind process guy. If it's the right decision once, it's the right decision all the time. And you live and die by that is kind of where I'm at.
It's the code. It's the Hammurabi code. And I agree with that, but I just don't think they've been in a place of consistent health and confidence in games to do it today.
Got to rebuild.
Like I think they need to get back to that. I think it is the best process and will yield the best results later this season. But today and last week and times in this state of flux they've been in, they could slow things down and get out of games. Probably they could probably have won another 2 games if they did what they did today over the last 10 or so, I think. But I want to see them get back to going for it in those situations, being the analytical, confident prowess that wins games. But it was just they've been shooting themselves in the foot so much.
But so
you
this is where my
before you run,
Okay, that's kind of where I have some give on this is that in order to have the confidence and the ability to go out and execute in those positions when you do want to go for it, you have to right some wrongs and just kind of take your medicine, and then we'll get back on the road, and then we're going to be right back to let's go for it.
Sure. I hope.
And part of that I think that people say a lot that I honestly kind of like puked at a lot was always Tucker. And, he ends up having, a couple of hijinks today or whatever. But it's like, I think that's true. I think that's something that I shouldn't have scoffed at is that you do have a superior kicker. He is above expected, above average, will get you points too. So this defense, I mean, aside from 2 plays, and of course you can always say, if they only didn't let up the 4 50-yard touchdowns or whatever, but they are winning. They're playing winning football, and you can put. That's why Marcus Peters got in a fight with Harbaugh on the sideline last year. Like, let them be the one that carries this team a little bit as their offense tries to figure things out. I don't know. It's tough. It goes against their nature. It goes against your boy Stern. But I just think they're not in the spot to confidently be consistently pushing for the win probability analytical decision if they're not going to execute. Like, it's gotten to the point where they are dragging their own butts in those situations. And what is, again, I'll keep going back to Mike Tomlin. What is he said last year? Part of the reason why going for it on fourth down and all of those things, those aggressive decisions are so successful is because sometimes they're a little more unexpected. And with the Ravens, they're expected. Yeah, you know when you're doing your weekly preparation, what are they like on fourth down? What are they like in their 2-point conversions? If you don't prepare for that, you're not a professional football coach, in my opinion. So all of the things, I think Mike Tomlin really, in the end, has done the Ravens a service by whooping their asses in those moments and showing John Harbaugh to a fault. You're not that guy, pal. Like, you're not him right now. You have to dial it back and be a little bit more towards the norm.
Build your own house, chop wood, carry water, just do the simple things. And they've got to get back to the basics. And I'm glad they did today.
They did. And they end up going, I believe on third down, they were around 50%. I have it right in front of me somewhere. They were 8 of 16 on third down. They hold the Titans to 1 of 9. Like, that matters a lot as well.
Yeah.
A lot.
And that's what I said to Brian. It's like, when you're clearly the better team on paper, and they were against the Steelers, it's okay to just take the points sometimes. It's okay to just not overcomplicate it. Just like you and I talked about in the preview. And that's what they did today. And, they get out of there with a win. So not to belabor it, but yeah, I mean, just getting back.
I think that's what we've seen the Chiefs do a lot over the last year and a half.
Sure.
Like, they're fine to win a game 20-12.
Or 9.
A lot of those games end up that way.
Yeah.
They're completely calm in those situations. And that's what ends up winning. Again, I think that's what ends up winning playoff football games too.
Yeah.
When shit hits the fan.
That's probably, honestly, I think that's why Joe Flacco was a good playoff quarterback, because he was just such a flat line. Everyone else was losing their shit around him, and he was just like, yeah, whatever. It's just another game. Like
100%. It was what we've talked about before on here, the neutral mindset.
No Koto.
Yes, exactly. The neutral based thinking, the Nestle hot cocoa based thinking of it's okay if it goes good. It's okay if it goes bad. And I think, again, we saw it. And I don't care what anybody says. I love that Lamar Jackson's passionate. He threw his helmet on the sideline too. John Harbaugh was doing the thing that we've talked about. He was doing the Macaulay Culkin meme reaction. And it was like, brother,
just chill out.
Can you just exude? And all of this is like super, super subjective. It's hard to quantify or dig analytical value out of it. So sure, you can argue me until you're blue in the face, but can't you just clap your hands a couple times, smile, and shake it off? Like Taylor Swift is the NFL spirit animal this year. Just shake it off, man.
He did today, and one Michael Looque might have thrown out the term clapper, which I don't know if we need to associate that with John Harbaugh. Shout out to Sunday Night Football kicking off.
He's acting like a real gaffer. He's acting like a real bloke gaffer.
He is a bloke, isn't he? He is a little bit of a bloke. What's going on over there, Banks? What do you
I'm trying to find a spread on next week. I'm very curious about it. What do you think it is? Because I haven't found it yet.
It's the Lions, right? The opponent?
Correct, at home.
Ravens by
minus 2. I think the Ravens will be favorites because they're at home. I think it would be maybe a dead even neutral site. I think it's like Ravens minus 1 or 2.5.
1.5 or 2 is my guess.
I had it as 2 in my head, so we're in lockstep there.
I think we should do a podcast where we guess the lines of every single game, and then
next week. We could rock it right now for next week.
Yeah, we should guess the lines.
I had one of the worst gambling days I've ever. I've been ice cold for about 2 weeks. I had a college football been fine today.
You said that, and then you win like $25,000 on one bet. So yeah, I think you'll be okay.
I do play lottery tickets for sure a lot, but the 49ers and the Eagles absolutely crippled me and a couple friends today. I fell asleep. I took a little nap. That's why I was late.
Same.
nodded off on the couch. I don't know what happened with Zach Wilson beating the Eagles. That was the last thing I saw coming.
Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy both turned into pumpkins is what happened.
Brock Purdy was, 11 of 25 with 125 yards and a pick?
God, Christian McCaffrey looked good in that game, too. That was a brutal loss by the 49ers. And now we got to worry about the Browns, and we got to worry about the Bengals again, and the Steelers. They're going to hang around this division, you know.
Somehow they picked up a game, and we won today, it felt like.
Yep. It's because they played too early. The Ravens played way too early. You got to,
I loved the fact that they played at 9:30 a.m. today.
I did too. I thought about playing golf, but I was my shout out to my current state. It was not going to be conducive, but yeah, good overall day.
I think that, and again, you guys have been going for a bit, but I'll to squeeze a take in. Like I think Justin Madubuike had a $15 million day today.
It's your guy, Aaron Donald.
I think he had a $15 million day. I think that if the Ravens had offered him on Friday, like a 3 or 4 year, like $40 million contract, something like 45 million, he's like, oh hell yeah. Now it's like, yes, this is his final. He's a free agent. Now it's like
he gone.
Is he a $60 million guy? Is he a $65 million guy?
He gone.
It was a massive day for them. Clowney comes through, man. It was fun. The Ravens are probably leading the NFL in sacks. They were, I think, third coming into today at 6.
I think Jadeveon Clowney is leading the league in revenge games too. Texans, Browns, Titans.
Harbaugh quote after the game involved him mentioning Jadeveon Clowney as it was something about like you see flying dreads, I think was the exact words. You just see flying hair. And I like that a lot.
How about Harbaugh calling this one of Lamar's most courageous games of his career?
It was very courageous.
I agree with that. I
totally agree with that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you got something to say about that?
It was just, I mean, he played a good game. I don't know if there's any moments in there that I would say.
Well, the
first down that he converted was tremendous play, and it took some guts on a third down, but most courageous game.
Yeah, man, he's overseas. He's in an unfamiliar environment. He's got people approaching him on the street with strange accents. You know, it's very courageous. Kidding me?
I think he also tucked the ball. I think he managed the pocket. From what I saw in the broadcast, we'll go back, but I think he managed the pocket really well. I think he ran the ball hard. Like I think that physically, in terms of what he was doing, running and managing the pocket and hanging in there and being tough on third down, extending plays. I think that being courageous also can be throwing the football away. I think that can be a courageous thing to do. It can be to swallow your pride, can be courageous, to live to die. And I think he did that a couple times. So I kind of like that. I kind of like that.
I'm just curious to see, like, if I were to get in front of John Harbaugh, have him really dissect what made it that much more courageous versus maybe some other games. He played a great game. He did.
I've talked about this with Pete Gilbert a little bit. Like, what would it be like to have John Harbaugh like on Truth Serum? Like, it's just like it's not that he like lies, but like there's just so many platitudes. It's just like
I think he truly believes everything he says, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, no,
it's not a lie if you believe it.
Yeah.
he's
one of the most courageous games of all time.
It's just
he's always got a little. I feel like he has a silver tongue, and a lot of the things he might believe, but he just really phrases it in a obscure way. Plus, there was the comment about whatever free agent tight end, undrafted free agent tight end that was on a podcast this offseason. I can't recall. Dan
Brown. Angels
Dan Brown.
Yeah, Dan Brown. Yeah.
Showing the scorn of Harbaugh. I think that's a good example of how intense he is versus what he looks like today in press conferences. He used to be a freaking fiery Irishman in press conferences 10 years ago. I think that's one of the things that like gets forgotten as he turns into sweet older John, like Grandpa John now. Hair's a little gray. He used to be a hard ass in the media room.
Oh yeah.
I think he might have seen how it went sideways for Jim and kind of straightened up his act because he was
always would have gotten like high blood pressure.
I think Jim is like a full psychopath. I think John is like has that in him, but he's not like all the way there. And then also like he's friends with Billick. I'm sure he's talked to Billick about all this shit. Like it's, you know, it can go south for you if you treat the media a certain way. So
especially in people get mad when you say small market, but in a medium market,
mid-market.
There's only so many guys that you can scorn in the media before they just continuously tear you down. So you do have to manage that kind of stuff, or else.
Well, the Ravens don't really like have any kind of haters in the local media though. So they don't have anyone on like a certain time slot or anything that might be pretty prevalent who just like relentlessly shits on them for no fucking reason. But
no, that actually doesn't even ever happen. It's crazy that you even kind of say that. Like it just goes without saying that doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah, of course. So,
but
what else do you got on this? Open the notebook for us. I know you got some stuff.
I thought it was a John Simpson. I'll say it, and that it takes me a lot to say hateful stuff, like bad stuff about a player. Not hateful is not the right word, but shit.
Really critical. Yeah.
To be hypercritical. John Simpson, I said to my friends at one point I was watching with that it was a heavy trash cone was playing left guard. That's why I think too, there was a lot of pressure and Lamar Jackson was bailing, but I give him good reason. He kept rolling right in the second half. It felt like all second half was rolling right. John Simpson was getting whipped. It felt like over and over again.
Yeah, like that.
So I think we saw Lamar move a lot, extend plays. Like the Zay Flowers touchdown was uncomfortable. That was an uncomfortable touchdown that he smoothed out a little bit. So I like that. And then it's just the spine of this Ravens defense. The Michael Pierce roughing the passer, bullshit. That was a fucking bullshit, horrible call. It's because Michael Pierce weighs as much as he does. He textbook rolled. He did a safe fall on the quarterback and gets penalized for it. You can't do what he did better. Really. He fire escaped, stopped, dropped, and rolled off of it before the contact was pushed through. So that ends up turning into the Derrick Henry long run, those things. But I thought that Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, Justin Madubuike, Michael Pierce, Travis Jones, Kyle Hamilton, I thought was playing ball in this one. And Marcus Williams ends up missing it. Marcus Williams is playing with one arm, ends up going out of this one, but
another circle back here.
Is the word I would give Marcus Williams. He was playing his little heart out. It was almost sad to watch. Like
he's the one-arm man from The Fugitive.
And then oh my God. You just watch The Fugitive on Netflix right now too.
So fucking good. It's so good. Tommy Lee Jones. Every outhouse, doghouse, it's fucking amazing. What a movie.
It is. One-arm man. And Marcus Williams in this one, I mean, gets called for a DPI early. I think that was maybe first quarter, if I'm not mistaken, on DeAndre Hopkins. Beats DeAndre Hopkins' spot with one arm. DeAndre Hopkins disrupts him, and that gets called. He has another one. I think Marcus Williams has a pick today if he has two arms and was making tackles, making plays. Derrick Henry gets him in the open field after the Kyle Hamilton pick, which sucked that Hamilton goes out because I think you get exposed despite Roquan Smith, despite Patrick Queen, despite your defensive line. What Hamilton can do in terms of versatility, fitting from the roof and being able to go back weak side and crash and do something. He's an alien. Like he is an alien. He is a freak, like a freaky freak in terms of what he can do in the run. And immediately you see Henry, we talked about in the preview, I'm going to run the ball at Marcus Williams. And then that makes the Ravens have to put Marcus Williams on the roof, run a little bit more, especially on neutral down, middle of the field, closed stuff that Williams isn't going to be fitting because he can't tackle Derrick Henry with a head of steam with one arm. I mean, that's just how many can, you kind of have to spear him in the ankles to do that. So
Deshaun Elliott,
it was a valiant effort from him.
I made a point about the way that Williams even chased down Henry on the big run. He obviously took a different angle just so he could cut him out from underneath.
Playing cerebral football to be able to do that. Like, how can I get there to use one arm?
You know what I thought was cool on the Spears, the big play, was Roquan got absolutely dummied on that play, but he also got up and made the half tackle on the back end of the play.
He got ran over by maybe a tight end, maybe a receiver. He was kind of backpedaling and just got shoved down. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Patrick Queen also, I thought played crazy. Both of them played crazy good from what I saw. The Titans in their first goal-to-go series ran, I believe they had Tajay Spears go in motion on a swing motion and then threw a screen the other way. Patrick Queen went in motion, passed it off to Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith and Queen talked, and Smith went with. It was a double screen where Tannehill looked towards where Smith went and then threw it back to a receiver on a tunnel screen. And Queen hauled his ass to get back and made a tackle there. He also, similar to Smith, to your point, Brian, made a tackle on Malik Willis late in the game. Penalties are going on back and forth. Malik Willis shook him, Queen, and then he got right back up and tackled him again, got him down at like the 1. I think there might have been a penalty on that play, but it was just maximum effort from those guys. And probably really the deciding factor several times was linebackers and some of those DBs making plays. Geno Stone at this point has to be, I mean, one of the best safeties in the NFL, making plays on the football right now. Like, he has 3 picks. He makes plays on the ball. He's talking shit. He's fitting the run. I don't think he, regardless of what happens with anyone, can come off like, it's cliche to say, and everybody says, but it's really gotten to a point where you can't take him off the field because he's that good in this defense right now and maximizes his, it's mean to say, but like average speed, athleticism, some of those things with high level processing. He is getting everything out of himself that he can. So it's tough. We saw it was the Ravens free agent day. Like, it was a costly day to the Ravens, and it was a payday for Madubuike, for Stone, for Queen, for a lot of guys in that defense. Jadeveon Clowney, even, I mean, is a free agent technically. Van Noy is a free agent technically. Both of those guys super disruptive. So those guys are. It was payday. Like, the price goes up on all those guys today. If the season ended today, and that was the last note that they left, they would be trending up right now. They would be getting that boost.
What you're saying is the price of the brick going up.
Price of the brick going way up. And
I want
Justin
Zay
Madubuike.
Flowers.
I'm obsessed with Justin Madubuike.
You are. He's the Aaron Donald clone. I want Zay Flowers to have the effect on Rashad Bateman. Zay Flowers, who is a jock, right, and a dog. I want Zay Flowers to have that effect on Rashad Bateman that Roquan Smith had on Patrick Queen. I feel like that's like a symbiosis that we got to get behind, because I feel like Queen and Bateman are kind of 1-to-1. Flowers and Roquan are like 1-to-1 to me. They're just 2 dogs, 2 animals.
Dog adjacent, maybe. I think Queen is a dog. I think Queen is a dog, though.
I think he is now. He had to be brought out of his shell, though, and I think Rashad is too. But he just needs to be brought out of his shell. Like
Bateman, the thing I'll say on Bateman, and where I've probably missed on him, is that he is physically not strong enough to play the way that he wants to. He gets dragged down too easily. It feels like he can't shield guys as strongly as he might like to. It feels like he's overall very thin. So that everybody's going crazy about him not jumping. I think that ball goes, if the DB doesn't touch, I think it goes 2 yards out of bounds, and he was 4 yards inbounds. Yeah, but it was the wrong route.
It happened.
It was the wrong route. I feel like he definitely ran the wrong route. It was supposed to be a back shoulder fade. He runs a little sit down. The DB made a good play on it. And I think that was definitely Bateman not doing what he was supposed to do. But it just feels weak. And we'll get into mega culpa. But Odell, after the catch, I was like, thank God we saw some explosiveness after the catch. I was like, thank God. He looked like he was fast and quick and confident. Nelson, I mean, the Titans made so many shoestring Nelson Aguilar, first drive of the game, charging forward, had so much explosiveness. It looked so good. Shoestring tackle. Lamar Jackson broke contain. I think it was 95 on the Titans. I'll go back and check. Maybe 93. 300-pound three-tech clips his foot just enough when he easily would have scored. So the Titans, I mean, shocker, Mike Vrabel's team tackles well and can make those plays, but Mike Vrabel's team tackled well and made those plays. So
what a masterclass by Vrabel as far as reaction shots today too. I mean, that was a Harbaugh-esque performance by him.
He's got the one eye that's bigger than the other eye too, like we all do, but his is like a little more sizable and easy to see.
He's a linebacker. He's twitchy. Yeah, that's for sure.
I said in the group chat that he's got a phenomenal. I have nothing but chicken shit to work with here, and I simply can't make salad with this kind of face.
It was like Brandon Hyde circa like 2020. Like you knew exactly like what was going on there.
It turned into such a ref show too that it just got out of hand. And
Thoughts
that I
on
feel
Bill
like
Vinovich? Are you a Bill Vinovich guy or no? Because we're not.
I will say that I liked the look on his face when Jeffrey Simmons did what he did and then got penalized early.
Mhm.
He had like a disgust on his face, and I was like, I like that. Thank you. That was messed up, and that was his fault. Odell Jeffrey Simmons is a strong guy, but maybe an all-time flop too. That was he flung himself, I think. It looked like he exploded into that flop a little bit.
He anticipated that well, it seemed.
Other sneaky highlight of this game too, Isaiah Likely on the onside kick. That was a beautiful attack of the football to go get the onside
I
kick.
changed my mind on that. Remember, I did text in the group, like, I don't know if I like him going into a sea of blue there, 7 yards away from the kick. But then I look at it again, and I see the angle, and I'm like, if there's any chance of that ball getting to that 10-yard mark, the Titans are right there for it. And I think it's Bateman that's behind him, or maybe it was Flowers that was kind of positioned. And that's equally as bad of a situation. So he just saw a good hop and he took advantage in ball game. And then he was, what was he doing? The bye-bye to everybody?
Yes.
There?
I want to go back and see how he blocked in this one. I think he's been one of the more disappointing second, third year guys. Him, Falele, a couple guys that I would like to see take a next step. And I think that I would say, like, I don't know, this is maybe gross hyperbole, but for the Ravens to be really good and go far, Isaiah Likely being a weapon, I think, is critical. I think being able to stretch the field, and we saw Lamar boot out, and like maybe last year, I think would have thrown him a 50-50 ball in the back of the end zone. I think he flipped it to Pat Ricard underneath for about a 3-yard gain on first down, and Likely had like an angle to the back pylon, and I swear I think last year Lamar would have made the throw to Likely, and I want to see him get back into his confidence, step back up. And if he can get going, being like a 4-catch guy, 28-yard guy, touchdown here and there guy, I swear it'll open things up over the middle.
My brother's reaction when they threw to Ricard was like in that situation was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, he's getting a lot of run on tonight's show, which he should be thankful for, but he was not happy about that. Let's just say that. Little throwback to the Roman days a little bit.
Shut up, Mike. Don't hate on Mike. Don't hate on Pat Ricard, Mike. That's
he knows we have a relationship with him too. I was like, you gotta holster those takes because I'm not having it.
I don't even care about that. We obviously don't even know. We had him on once, but
he loved us.
He pirouetted and made a catch. Like, come on, give me a little something. Give me a little Mike. Give me a little Ricard love.
We got to get him back on. He would come on.
He's the best. He was super. He's super into gaming and streaming and all that stuff. He's
sponsored by Rain.
He's good for content
and Pizza Bullies. He's the Chad Pat Ricard.
He is a Chad. He's such a Chad. He's like a low key nerd, like maybe high key nerd.
Yeah.
So,
but he's open about it. That's what makes him a Chad. He's a Sigma male. He's open about the fact that he's got Doritos like crust on his hands and all that stuff. He's
yes, he had like a little mohawk, got the little curly mohawk going at one point and stuff. Now he's about to be a father, if I'm not mistaken. So he's about to be.
I think you're right. Yeah.
A real big body daddy nerd.
Oh yeah.
So we like that. But yeah, I mean, those guys. I think Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, Justin Madubuike, Michael Pierce. I'll say Kyle Hamilton still, and Geno Stone up the spine. Like, that's how the Ravens have allocated their assets, up the middle, and I think that's why they won this game. The Ravens built themselves in response to the Titans. Like, they got embarrassed in 2019 and then again in 2020 in the regular season so badly that they said, we can't keep letting teams beat us with zone concepts and bootlegs and punching us in the throat up the middle of our offensive line. And I think Monken was the final piece of this team can't hurt me that way anymore, to be able to spread it out a little more confidently, fling the ball into the perimeter. So I thought that was good to see. And I really like Monken's just presence. I don't know what it was. They kept cutting to him. He had that old.
They did. Yeah. They cut to him a lot. Yeah. It was good.
I like Monken a lot. I like his presence. I think there's still a lot of things that you can clean up and the pick and whatever, but
I mean, if we catch all the balls we did last week, we'd be all over the moon about them. Like, The concept is all
to be
there.
fair, like to be clear, like I'm very over the moon. He's like the play
Yeah.
calls I think are very good. Like it's very good. It's it's varied. It's diverse. It's he's just doing what he needs to do, and it's nice. Very like Marty Funkhauser type of personality on him.
Marty
too, which is great.
Funkhauser is a great
Marty
call, yes.
Funkhauser.
Yeah, when he gets in front of the microphone, he's
an orphan.
Super Dave. He's Super Dave. Yeah, he's well, right now I'm in mourning, Larry. So yeah, it's very good. I'm a big Monken guy right now.
There was a big play
man.
too. I believe it was a 3rd and 5. I'll go back and look at it, but Lamar Jackson went through I think a high-low read, had his 1-2, and then almost like no look to Gus Edwards and flipped him the ball on about 3rd and 5, and Gus was just able to go get a first down. And it wasn't a great day running the football. If you go look at the yards per carry, the success rate, whatever. They had a couple nice runs. They got stuffed a few times, whatever. But my, oh my, if that can become a development where Lamar Jackson knows where his running backs are and they're ready to catch the football, I think that increases your like 3rd down conversion rate like 8, 10, 12% over the course of the year. I thought that was a sneaky, really nice little smooth, clean, functional, normal offensive mechanism that we have not seen enough. And holy crap, please let Gus Edwards stay healthy. Justice Hill had a couple of nice plays in this one. They didn't fumble the fucking football for once. They didn't have some big moment dropping the ball, butterfingers, and splatting everywhere. So that was all cool too. And Brian, I think, Brian, you're right. I wasn't on, but you're right. They do need to be able to go for it in the playoffs and convert a 4th and short and all of those things. We just saw the Chiefs get real cute on Thursday night doing that same stuff and not able to go get it. So get back to that point. But right now, I think today was like 0. It was as conservative as you can possibly be on 4th down, punting, kicking. Build back up. I want to see 10% against the Lions. I want to see 30% to start November and get back up to that aggressive mindset. It was a nice little hard drive wipe, and they kind of screwed the pooch a little bit. That pick really didn't help them much. The roughing the passer into the Derrick Henry, what was it, a 60-yard run? Didn't help them, but I like it. I think that's I feel like if they didn't do what they did, they lost. And it was the results-based thinking today would have been they go 0 for 1 or 0 for 2 on 4th down. The Titans get the ball, score one more time, and then it's like a narrow defeat or something. So would love to see them ramp back up into that 2020, 2019 go for it confidence by being a little more conservative today.
Absolutely. All right, boys. That is an hour of podcasting. Amazingly. Anything else before we wrap this bad boy up?
Let's go get the Lions, man. It's a big one.
Lions, Dan Campbell. Back home. How about that? A game at M&T Bank Stadium. Who would have thought? I'm sure the weather's going to be amazing. We're all very excited. So we'll be out. We'll be tailgating. Lovely Baltimore in the fall. How can you
I'm just seeing their score for the first time too. I thought the Bucs would give them a run, and holy shit, Jared Goff.
I thought they would too. That was not a competitive game at all. That was
The Lions ran for 39 yards, I think, and Jared Goff goes for 353.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked really good.
Oh, no.
So that'll bring its own challenges for sure. But
one of my buddies was like, I would way rather see them beat the Bucs than have the Lions, who I think are a wagon, come into Baltimore off a loss. And I don't hate that. I don't hate that take.
Yeah, that's maybe a good call. Catch them sleeping a little bit, but okay. Well, we'll get into that when it's time proper. We'll talk about that on the jumbo set, on the preview pod, just all sorts of podcasts coming your way. We're doing 3 podcasts a week at least here. Show me somebody else who's doing that many. I think, Kevin, definitely. Kevin does it every single day. So he's doing 5 a week. So check out Locked On Ravens. Not to plug another podcast, of course, but
you did.
Yeah, well, I sure did. So it's okay. But I'm going to go ahead and land this plane. Thank you guys for listening, as always. Tremendous job tonight, guys. Great job by both of you. You can follow Brian at Barstool Banks. You can follow Spencer at Ravens4Dummies. That is the number 4. I am at Jake Looque. That's Louque. It's X52 Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you're not already, too. We just passed the 1K threshold a little bit. We're getting into that monetization territory, which we like that. So, be sure to check out our video content. We got, Spenny cranking some of that stuff out. It's great. I've got a little bit of that going myself, some stuff in the works, hopefully soon. And yeah, man, we're just going to keep this train rolling. So thank you guys for listening. We will talk to you again very soon. Shout out to all our presenting sponsors, Jimmy's Famous Seafood, Black Eyed Susan Spices, Fed Thrill. And yeah, we will talk to you guys later.
Free Stern.